Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. Well, she is the first woman to represent District 7 in the city of Los Angeles. I'm delighted to be joined today by Councilmember Monica Rodriguez. So nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there's an old proverb that says, tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. And I know a lot of really great work went into District 7 in 2021, and I'm sure a lot of it is going to reap rewards in 22. So let's kind of take a look back a little bit. The first thing I really want to hear about is a space in which young Angelenos can be heard, which is entitled the Youth Development Department. What is it and how is it going?
So the Youth Development Department was really inspired by the leadership and advocacy of young people from throughout our city who were fighting for their voice to be heard at City Hall. There is no agency that really embraces their participation in our local government, and more importantly, our resources in the city to support young people is scattered throughout 26 different departments with no central entity to having accountability. As a young person, a former young person myself, it was important to create that space. And so I embarked on that journey to fight alongside with them to create this Youth Development Department shortly after I got elected. And 2021, we were able to make it a reality. And so we're finally creating the space for young people to engage in their local government, much like those of us that had been invited to participate in local government back when I was in high school, or people like Tom LaBonge, and under the auspices of the leadership of Mayor Tom Bradley. So I'm really proud of the creation of this department that will finally give young people the space and the voice and a central place to access programming opportunities, jobs, supportive academic opportunities that benefit their future.
So what exactly will happen or is happening within that department? How many youth can participate, and what exactly, you mentioned things that will be provided for them. So what are some of those things? And then on the flip side of that coin, what will their voices impact when it comes to larger pictures in city government?
Well, so we've also created the Olivia Mitchell YouthCouncil, which is going to be part of the governance of that department in the city of Los Angeles. It will be comprised of young Angelenos between the ages of 16 to 25 years of age from every part of our city, two individuals per council district. These are paid positions because we value the contributions that they're going to be making to help us inform the work that we do within this department. Additionally, separate from the Youth Council, we have embarked upon developing a strategic plan of the types of programmatic opportunities that will be availed to young people, because while we have, as I mentioned, 26 different departments that purport to support young people with a variety of programs, it's virtually impossible for any young person to try and navigate within our city bureaucracy to access it. And so through the Youth Development Department, we're creating the central point of access for young people to be able to identify which opportunities appeal most to them, and more importantly, make greater accountability for the resources that we invest in this area, and frankly, be able to leverage more of those resources both from the state and federal level that we are unable to access at this time. So centralizing all of these programmatic opportunities for young people is not only going to engender greater accessibility for them, but it's also going to have greater accountability for taxpayers for the dollars that are going to be expended in support of young people.
Every day is a brand new civics lesson. So I imagine the educational opportunities, maybe not even specifically directed toward, resume building and job opportunities, but just the awareness of how government works is going to be invaluable.
I think it's imperative for young people or people of any age to be engaged in their local government. I'm here for just a blip of time, and so many of us are, and it's a privilege to be in these roles. But frankly, sustainable change comes from people being involved and engaged in their local government. And for me to inspire young people to be more constructive partners and understanding how it works so that together we can help create sustainable change in communities is what I seek to do with the time that I have available.
All right, well, there's not just the youth. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have been sort of in the forefront. Public safety is definitely one of your priorities, and you are very much a leader in that realm. not an easy world to be in because of what we have witnessed in terms of discontent with, police, etc. So what are the topics that are on the table and how are they being handled?
Well, I think we have a multitude of, forward-facing opportunities to address here in the city of Los Angeles. Obviously, we've had this unprecedented circumstances, one that has brought to light a lot of very complicated, nuanced issues. But frankly, we have to do better at aligning, just like I discussed with the youth department. We have to do a much better job of having alignment with the resources and accountability with everything that we do. We have to demonstrate our commitment to making sure that we have greater responsiveness in our communities, regardless of what zip code you live in. And so for me, one of the most exciting opportunities that we have coming forward is the newest introduction of mental health, therapeutic mental health vans that we're going to be unveiling this year, which took some time to get contracted with our partners with the LA County Mental Health Department. But these are efforts that are going to help reduce the call load for both fire and police to respond to mental health individuals suffering in mental health crisis, so that they can be performing the duties to which they are best prepared to do, and that is fighting fires, responding to any kind of emergency health situation, or responding to criminal activity. And so those are some of the ways that we're going to continue to help innovate and change our workload here in the city of Los Angeles, to have greater accountability and to better align the resources in a manner that gets the results that we're seeking.
Adding this huge component of, mental health advocates and mental health response, do you think we're redefining the meaning of public safety, as far as the committee is concerned, looking beyond just what we would have normally seen, like, crime and fire and everything like that?
Well, I think it's multifaceted and it's complicated, and we do need our partners to assist and support us. We also still very much need the community's participation. Public safety is a shared responsibility, and we need, just as, I go back to being a 5-year-old, having our home burglarized, and remembering LAPD coming to our home to take the report. The subsequent activity for my neighborhood was my parents were involved in organizing a neighborhood watch. Oh. And together we were the eyes and ears for our neighborhood. And it's, again, going back to that shared responsibility, because we need to be partners with law enforcement to help create a safer community. We need to be communicative about the things that we see, and that will never cease. I think that's always going to be a responsibility that every Angelino has, to share that information and to make sure that, we can be proactive in doing very important crime prevention methods, not just waiting to, not just when we need to make that 911 call.
Is it tough working with the constituencies, because there has been some antagonistic issues, and being a chair of this committee, I imagine the challenges are more than we could even list in the time we have together. But has it been awkward building these bridges again when there has been, this sort of summer of discontent and, this loud voice that maybe pushed back on things that maybe didn't have the real information that needed to be shared, or maybe, just only had their vision of what's happening. And then there's the defense mechanism that happens on the flip side when someone's accused of something they haven't done. And, so has it been difficult to?
Well, I think, I think with any, first of all, I think that you can never deny someone's experience and how they feel and whatever trauma they endured. And those, those opinions and those circumstances matter, and those voices need to be heard, and they need to be embraced. We have been very good, I know, through the work with our community safety partnership. I was the first to bring a community safety partnership to the San Fernando Valley in my district, and it's helped to do a great deal of trust building in the community, because we want to make sure that folks can trust their law enforcement officials, right. And mutually, it's about respect. And while for me, it's I go back to some of the lessons in history that we learned, but everyone has to kind of take a breath. There was a lot that contributed to a lot of uneasy feelings. But the truth of the matter is that we have this collaboration and partnership, one that requires everyone to respect one another. That doesn't always happen. But I think it's imperative that we continue to work towards that greater goal, that both law enforcement officials respect the communities that they serve, and that the communities work, respectfully with members of law enforcement to help make sure that our communities are safe. And I'm going to continue to be, as difficult of a job that might be, I will continue to be that advocate to help extend myself to helping to bridge that divide.
And in the arena of public safety, there have been some pretty innovative programs that you've established. I mean, things that maybe people wouldn't have thought about before, fireworks.
Oh gosh, so we, every part of the city struggles with the fireworks, the use of illegal fireworks. I'm incredibly sensitive to it because of the wildfires that have ensued in my district. But more importantly, people forget the effects of the noise to seniors, to individuals suffering with PTSD, to our animals. And so I launched an unprecedented effort, a firework buyback program. Oh. And I was mocked completely by everybody for the fact that we were going to do this. But we collected over 1/4 ton of fireworks voluntarily, and it was a huge success. And and again, leadership oftentimes when people when you propose an idea and people mock you, I'm more determined to make it a successful effort, and we were incredibly successful with that effort, and collected the single largest collection effort that had ever been done in the city's history.
So many big picture issues, face so many of the council members here in Los Angeles, and of course, in your district and in the Valley, there's none, homelessness, of course, mm-hmm. is top of mind for everybody. And I know that some programs were put in place into 2021, and there are aspirational goals, for 2022 and beyond. But how are the ones that were put in place working? How is safe parking going? How is the shelter, expansion going? How are the tiny house projects going? How are all those things going that are, again, planning for, a better tomorrow requires action today? Issues.
Right. Well, and so having come on the council 4 years ago, obviously it was somewhat of a slow start in kind of watching the growth of that work. I really used my own district and the circumstances in my district to be the pilot for how we might address these issues citywide. From leading the first, I was the pioneer of the encampment to home process that required intensive outreach. We had an encampment at Pacoima that had 67 individuals. It's the single largest encampment in the entire city. Wow. Where 100% of the individuals were housed. And that came as a result of the collaboration with the state coming through with additional resources. And so when, honestly, through the course of the pandemic, we finally started to see the state coming with the additional resources that were necessary after residents in our city taxed themselves to provide us these resources to build the housing. Finally, the state has come in, and now we're seeing greater resources coming down also from the federal government that support us doing this work. And so I think where we were seeing some of the challenges with our own limited means to build the kind of housing that we needed, we've seen the state step in with additional resources that allowed us to do the Project Room Key, for example, that was doing master leasing of large motel spaces that allowed us to rapidly house a great number of people. And it accelerated our progress tremendously. Doesn't mean that we still don't have a great deal more to do. And one of the biggest challenges that we have in the city is, well, we can take these individuals and put them into housing, but without the supportive services, all we're doing is housing some of the challenges of what these individuals are experiencing and bringing them inside. So it really does require the case management and some of the ancillary services that are, frankly, the obligation of the county. We need greater collaboration and partnership with some of these other governmental agencies in order to see the full success in addressing homelessness.
And are we keeping up fast enough? Because it seems as if it's, as fast as we try to do something, you try to do something, I just ask about it, the problem increases. And then there's the antagonizers that don't think it's happening fast enough, or that it's being handled the wrong way. I mean, Are you feeling optimistic? And do you understand that maybe everyone has to step back and say, this is going to take a bit of time, or this can happen faster if we do X, Y, and Z? I mean, where are you in your thought process on this?
So, I mean, it's we're not going to get ourselves out of this overnight, and we didn't get here overnight. I think the challenges ensuing from even the pandemic, we've seen more people fall into housing insecurity and homelessness just through the course of the economic uncertainty and instability. So, while we are trying to assist the individuals that are currently in homelessness, we're still trying to catch individuals from falling into it. And so it's a very difficult balance, but one that, I have to remain optimistic. I couldn't be in this job if I wasn't optimistic. And all I can focus on working on is to provide those greater resources and opportunities in my own district to help, again, lead and support with my colleagues. Again, the work that we pioneered in my district on the first encampment to home was subsequently deployed in Venice, which was very successful, in Echo Park, which was a huge operation as well, in MacArthur Park, and also in Councilmember Blumenfield's district. So, it's sometimes just leading by example and creating those opportunities for people to kind of see what works. We have to test it, and we may not always succeed in doing it right, but there are a great deal of lessons learned in this. And I don't proclaim myself to have known how to address homelessness before I got here, but certainly it is part of the job. What I am really poised at doing is bringing all the right people together in the right agencies so that we can solve this problem. And I'm proud to say that we're making great headway in my district.
Well, it's always a good idea to, copy a success story instead of try to start all over again on your own. So in terms of, there is the issues of those that are unhoused, but then there's also the quality of life for your constituency. And I know that a lot of that has been, top of mind.
Correct.
The Valley is known for being a warm environment at the best of times, and a pretty intensely hot environment. So there's the issue of brush fires, there's the issue of open spaces. And I know that there have been some things that have been addressed there with cool streets and park space and equestrian areas. So, how are those? Where are those? What's going on with all of that asset that is Council District 7?
So obviously my district is one that, it is, as you mentioned, I have a very unique set of circumstances, both from
urban to very rural.
Right.
Yeah.
And those rural areas have been very vulnerable to wildfire. I mean, the first 50 days I was in office in 2017 had the largest wildfire, to be followed by the city's largest wildfire in the Creek Fire that evacuated nearly half of my district.
Oh, wow.
Recalibrating how we did evacuations as a result of that is something that I led as chair of public safety. But all of these things combined, we've continued to see the incredible challenges associated with the air quality conditions, not just because of the fires, but because of the compounded effect of operators like Whiteman Airport, some of the industries that have long been associated in my district. And so fighting for environmental justice for frontline communities like mine, alongside, of course, the high fire severity and the environmental impacts associated with so much in my district. Like I said, I have no shortage of work. Every day, we take these things on. But what's really great is to see what progress we have made in these areas. I was chair of the Upper River Los Angeles Working Group, which was comprised of a number of elected officials from our region in the San Fernando Valley, which sought to include greater opportunities for developing park spaces along the river tributaries. And so I'm proud to say that as a result of that work, and I was proud to be appointed chair by all of my colleagues, in that work, we are now going to avail, we have a master plan that's included as part of the LA River master plan that will create greater park space for 1.5 million Angelenos that don't currently have access to park space within a half-mile radius. And so there's a great deal of planning and laying the groundwork in these last few years of my first term. And what I look forward to in the immediate future is I say, you know, laying out the plans are great, but doing the ground breakings, as much as I love those, ribbon cuttings are better. And so I'm looking forward to being able to help, open up these facilities going forward.
In terms of, the wonderful recreational spaces that are available in District 7, I know that there has been some improvements in some areas that have been really effective.
So in Hansen Dam, which is one of the largest open spaces in my district, it's nearly 1,500 acres. We provided mile markers so that both users that are passively or actively using the space for hiking trails, they can actually know where they are in that space because it is so vast. In the event there's emergency, or in the event they want to communicate to a friend, hey, meet me at this location. It's really important because, again, as you've mentioned, we have equestrians, we have pedestrians, cyclists, everyone's using this space. And so we're trying to make it safer for everyone to be able to enjoy. But in addition to that, I secured resources from the MRCA to help make improvements at a facility which, frankly, I'm most proud of in the city. We have the largest municipal pool in the country at Hansen Dam Aquatic Center, where we host a variety of events, including a movie night every year. But we're going to be making some additional improvements to the lake and investments to restore Hansen Dam to its heyday. And again, it goes back to building that relationship and collaboration with other agencies so that the city of Los Angeles isn't in it alone.
So with the park space and everything, there's also the urban areas that you've talked about, and you talked about groundbreaking, so I'm going to go back to streets.
Yeah.
How are the Cool Streets programs working? And what exactly have you been able to gauge how they're helping and what's happening with them?
Well, they certainly reduce the heat island effect for about 10 degrees in the areas, and we were prioritizing in my district cool street installations around many of our schools because that's where we have the most activities, especially for young people. So, in one area in Sylmar, for example, it's adjacent to both our recreation center and one of our local high schools. And so that has been an improved, ambient effect in that area. But in addition to that, it's about building our tree canopy. That is going to help mitigate a lot of the, growing heat in the San Fernando Valley. I mean, as a lifelong Angelino and Valley resident, the heat in the valley is no joke. And so we need to continue to make every effort to mitigate the effects of climate change. It is very real. We feel it every summer. In fact, we've just felt it last week with such intensity that it was 20 degrees hotter in the San Fernando Valley for that time period. And never in the history of the city have we experienced that type of heat in the winter months. So it's very real, and we need to continue to make greater strides in investing in these types of innovations.
Yeah, and the shifting landscape of climate change, not being able to anticipate weather patterns that we have anticipated before, add a lot of issues when you think it's no longer fire season, because fire season can be any season.
It's 365 days a year.
Exactly. It's no longer heat wave season, because heat wave seasons can happen any time of year now. So, sort of putting all of those things into pieces. What are some of the things that have come to light when you're looking in those areas and you're expanding? You talk about the access to the LA River and some of the opportunities for park space. What are some of the other areas that you've been able to earmark, or that have come to light because you've done this project? And like you're standing here and then you look to your left, you go, oh, well, wait about over there. Have you seen a lot more possibilities in your district?
There's not a corner that I don't look and see an opportunity. It's just about aligning the right resources to help make that a reality. I've been working with the Bureau of Sanitation, for example. There is a lot of water capture opportunities in my district. Many streets don't have the very basic infrastructure of sidewalks, of gutters and water capture, ability to do water capture. We've been doing a number of bioswales, aligning some of the needs that we have for basic infrastructure with some of the valued benefits of capturing and harvesting water runoff, mitigating a lot of the flooding in our streets. All of those things, kind of tying those all together, has been some of the work that I've been doing. I'm very excited about, along this one channel in Sylmar, that we identified an opportunity to create, basically taking this waterway, which was derelict, to say the least, turning it into an opportunity that would be a shared equestrian and pedestrian space, and yet still be able to capture the water runoff in that area. So it creates a different pathway and meandering opportunity for residents in that area. And frankly, what it's been right now is a place for illegal dumping. And so it's just transforming and reinventing these spaces. But it's, the more challenging part of it is because I'm always open with new ideas to try and, I get inspired with new ideas every time I'm in a different place in my district. But it's about identifying and securing the resources to implement and make that transformation happen. But fortunately, I've been pretty successful in doing that thus far.
There does seem to be a shift in regards to that as well. I mean, obviously, you were talking about the resources that came in, through the pandemic because of the awareness of areas that may not have been paid attention to, and then the pandemic really shone a spotlight on them in terms of, care of those that are in need. We're in a good financial position right now. The state's in a good financial position. The city seems to be pretty solid. Are you looking forward to taking opportunities now to see what you can do with all of it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I've been working very closely with one of our state legislators, Laura Friedman, who just, her district just got reapportioned into parts of mine. And for her, as someone who's, she's an equestrian as well, active, and boards her horse in my district, we've been talking about how can we better align some of the resources that, that can be financed with state funds. And so we're working with and collaborating with a number of legislators, both at the state and the federal level, so that we can identify and supplement what we have to offer here at the city of Los Angeles. Because while we might have recovered from the devastation in our budget as a result of the relief that we received from the federal government, we have to be fiscally prudent and be thoughtful and mindful to prepare ourselves and our city to remain solvent in the wake of what potential devastation might come in the future. And so I'm always very mindful about, I want to make full use of the resources that we have, but I want to make better use of leveraging them to the extent possible.
And on a personal note, how have you, as someone that stepped in 2017, obviously things got very different in 2020, and now we're sort of maybe opening the doors and the windows and readdressing things. How are you feeling and faring?
For me, I find myself that I'm most steady in moments of crisis, because I think it's important that we are. Particularly as leaders. I had many friends who were very shaken by the constant turn of events that we were going through the course of the pandemic. And they would always ask me when they should worry. I said, you should worry when I'm worried. And they said, well, you're never worried. I said, you're right, because I can't be. Because we have to be steady and stable and making sure that we chart a course forward that provides comfort for people. I'm so proud of my staff and how we responded in the wake of what was happening, because our community needed us. They didn't know who to turn to. And for members of my community that are in some cases, very ill-resourced, we had to step in, and we had to be the family member that was unable to be with them. We had to, make the food deliveries. We were expanding food pantries. And, for me, it's the greatest privilege to serve and be of service to my community, one that I've lived in my whole life. And, I just, for me, I wake up every day with the gratitude of knowing that I have a job that allows me to make a difference, and I'm just dedicated to doing that for the people of Los Angeles.
So if people want more information about what's going on in Council District 7 or want to offer you some sort of, input from their perspective, what's the best way?
We invite them to visit my website. My entire staff is listed there, www.monicarodriguez.org.
I look forward to talking to you again.
Likewise, thank you.
All right. And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.